Hi there, friends. It's Mrs. Beitler back with a new star story. So the title of our story today is Jack and the Beanstalk. That's the name of the story. This is another story that has been told many times, just like the stories The Little Red Hen and Stone Soup. The person who wrote this story tells it in her own way. So we say the story is retold by Carol Ottolenghi. The illustrator is Guy Porfirio. He drew the pictures for the story. Okay, so before we start reading, let's look. The title of the story is Jack and the Beanstalk. So let's think, who might this boy be? Go ahead and tell me you're your learning coach at home. Who could this boy be? The title is Jack and the Beanstalk. Who's this boy? Yeah. Right, he could be Jack, right? Right. All right, and then another question I have is, what is a beanstalk? Think. What's a beanstalk? Go ahead and tell me you're your learning coach at home. Yeah, right. A beanstalk is the stem of a bean plant where the leaves grow. Okay, that's called a beanstalk. Okay, so let's look at the cover of this book. What do you notice about this beanstalk? Go ahead and tell me, you're your learning coach at home. Yeah. This beanstalk is so big that it makes the boy look small. What does that make you wonder about this story? Go ahead and tell me, you're your learning coach at home. Let's read the story to see if your ideas are inside. Once upon a time, when giants stomped the land, a widow lived with her son, Jack. The widow was too sick to work, and one day they ran out of money. "Son," Jack's mother said, "I'm too weak to take the cow to town. You must go and sell her." Now Jack was brave and kind-hearted, but he didn't always use his head. So his mother told him to think carefully before selling the cow. Jack promised he would. He was halfway to town when a man stopped him. "Jack," said the man, "I'll give you 5 magic beans for your cow." Jack thought, how could this stranger know my name? And how could he know that I'm selling the cow? He must have magic powers. Then the beans could be magic too. He traded the cow for beans and went home, very pleased with the deal. Okay, so let's stop here. Think. What might happen when Jack goes home with those magic beans? Go ahead and tell me, you're your learning coach at home. Yeah. Okay, let's see. His mother was not pleased. "You were tricked, you silly boy," she cried. "There are no such thing as magic beans." Angrily, she threw the beans out the window. "Now we have no cow and no money," she said. "What shall we do?" The next morning, something tickled Jack's nose and woke him up. Surprised, Jack saw that a huge leaf had poked in his window. He pushed it away and peeked outside. A thick beanstalk stretched up and up and up, its top hidden by the clouds. "They were magic beans," he whispered. Without waking his mother, Jack started climbing the beanstalk. His arms and legs began to ache, but he forgot about them when he saw the castle. Jack knocked on the castle door. A giant woman opened it. "Who's there?" she asked, peering around. "I don't see well, so speak up." Jack wasn't sure that he wanted her to see him, but he was very hungry. "I'm down here," he said. "Do you have any work I can do for food?" The giantess picked up Jack by his collar and plopped him on the huge stone floor. "Start scrubbing," she ordered. Thud, thud, thud. "Oh," said the woman. "It's my husband. Hide in the cupboard so he doesn't eat you." Scrub the floor later. There he goes. Jack's hiding in the cupboard. The giant came in, took one sniff, and said, "Fee, fi, fo, fum. I smell the blood of an Englishman. Be he alive or be he dead, I'll grind his bones to make my bread." "Don't be silly," his wife said. "You smell breakfast. Eat while it's hot." After breakfast, the giant opened his bags of gold. He began counting the pieces, but fell asleep after 135,091. Oh my gosh, that's a lot of monies he was counting. Just a little gold would feed Mother and me for a long time, Jack thought. He snatched a small bag and climbed quickly down the beanstalk. Jack's mother was delighted, but when she heard where Jack had gotten the gold, she hugged him tight. "Those giants robbed us of gold and two other treasures," she said. "They killed your father. I grabbed you and escaped. Promise that you won't go back for more gold," Jack promised. The next morning, he climbed the beanstalk again. "I promised I would not go back for gold," the boy thought as he climbed. "I didn't say I wouldn't go back for something else. After all, it was ours." Jack banged on the castle door. Bang, bang, bang. The giantess squinted her eyes and peered down at him. "Are you the thief who was here yesterday?" she demanded. So let's stop here before we keep reading. I want you to think. Why does Jack go back up the beanstalk after he promises his mom that he wouldn't? Go ahead and tell me, or your learning coach at home. Okay, those are all great answers. Let's keep reading. "I'm no thief," said Jack. "I'm a hard worker, though, and I expect to be paid for it." The giantess picked up Jack by his collar and plopped him in front of a huge tub of dirty dishes. "Start washing," she ordered. Thud, thud, thud. "Ah!" said the giantess. "It's my husband. Hide in the cupboard so he doesn't eat you. Do the dishes later." The giant came in, took one sniff, and said, "Fee, fi, fo, fum. I smell the blood of an Englishman. Be he alive?" Yeah, interrupted his wife. "You smell breakfast. Eat while it's hot." The giant grumbled, but he ate. Then he got a goose from a crate in the corner. He put the goose on the table and roared, "Lay!" The goose honked twice, then waddled back to its crate. On the table was a golden egg. The giant tossed it up and down like a ball. Then his eyes began to hurt from looking at the shiny gold, so he shut them. As soon as the giant fell asleep, Jack grabbed the goose and quickly slid down the beanstalk. His mother was waiting at the bottom of the beanstalk. She was very angry with Jack. "I didn't exactly promise not to go up again," Jack explained. "You knew that you weren't supposed to," said his mother. "Go to your room." So Jack's mother is angry because he went back up the beanstalk. So she sends him to his room. I want you to think. Do you think Jack is going to go back up the beanstalk again? Go ahead and tell me, or your learning coach at home. Okay, let's see. Jack knew that he shouldn't, but the next morning, before his mother woke, he climbed to the castle. Instead of banging on the door, he crawled in a kitchen window when the giantess wasn't looking. The giant's wife hid me in the cupboard, Jack thought. I'll hide somewhere else. He climbs into the wash tub. Soon he heard thud, thud, thud. Uh-oh, what's gonna happen? The giant came in, took one sniff, and said, "Fee, fi, fo, fum. I smell." "You certainly do," interrupted his wife. "That little thief probably sneaked in again. He always hides in the cupboard." But Jack wasn't there. The giant ate his breakfast. Then he got out a golden harp. "Play!" he roared. The harp sounded like a sparkling stream pouring over pebbles. The lady of the harp sang a song with no words. Jack was entranced. The music put the giant to sleep. Jack grabbed the harp and then almost dropped it when it screamed, "Master, master!" The giant woke and thudded after Jack. Oh, let's stop here. So when the giant wakes up, he chases Jack. I want you to think, what's going to happen next after he chases Jack? Go ahead and tell me, you're your learning coach at home before we keep reading. Okay, let's see what happens. Jack half scrambled, half slid down the beanstalk. "Mother!" he yelled. "Get the axe!" Jack's mother saw the giant close behind Jack. She grabbed the axe and whacked the beanstalk. "Jump, Jack, jump!" She hollered and whacked again. Jack jumped to the ground. He snatched the axe and whacked the stalk until it snapped in two. Kaboom! The giant and the beanstalk hit the ground together. And that was the end of the giant. Jack, his mother, and the goose and the harp lived very happily together, except for the time Jack went to town to buy a pig. But that's another story. The end. All right, so in the beginning of the story, Jack's mother doesn't believe the beans are magic. I want you to think. What do you think changes Jack's mom's mind in the story? Go ahead and tell me, you're your learning coach at home. Yeah. Right, remember they grew. What did they grow when she threw them out the window? The next morning, what magically grew? Right, the big beanstalk. And then he promises his mother, Jack promises his mother that he will not go back for more gold. Think. What does the word promise mean? Go ahead and tell me, you're a learning coach at home. Yeah, when you make a promise, it means you will do exactly what you say you will do. Have you ever made a promise to somebody? What did you promise to do? Go ahead and tell me, you're your learning coach at home. Wow. Those are all great answers. All right, friends, I had so much reading the story Jack and the Beanstalk with you. We will retell the story together again soon. I will see you then. Bye, friends.